Living Country in the City, Episode 4.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
All right, so we are here today for Episode 4 of the Living Country in the City podcast. We're at the International Sportsman's Expo in Salt Lake City. If you can tell by the background noise, it's just starting to get busy here. But I'm here with Eric, Pauly, and Michael Burns, President and Vice President of Operation Pay It Forward. This is a fantastic program targeted towards our returning veterans to take them out hunting, really get them off the couch, get them back into a community, back into an awesome, encouraging environment. So we're here to talk with these guys about this great program. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, Sam. We appreciate it.
So let's just start off real simple. Why don't you give me the rundown of what Operation Pay It Forward is?
So Operation Pay It Forward is something I started. Actually, I was only going to do it just myself, and the original intention was to develop a process of individuals taking veterans out into the outdoors and getting them out and making sure that they're healing, whether it be physical or psychological or emotional, and getting them passionate about something that was positive in their lives. And originally the idea was just to document that process and provide it for other people to do the same thing. The part that I didn't, and I'm a veteran myself, but the part I did not expect to be as difficult was finding the veterans that need it. So a lot of these guys, and they come back, they kind of crawl into a hole. There's not a lot of trust with outsiders, civilians, even other veterans they don't know. So once I realized how difficult that process was, I saw a need to have an actual formal organization. And Mike Burns and he was actually the first guy I took out into this program when I was just doing it myself. And we spent a lot of time talking about it and realized that we needed to develop a process for us to actually take this as an organization and take it to the next level and be able to find and catalog these veterans to bring them in and then be able to find the resources they need. So that's kind of how it started. The pay it forward side of it is, originally it was intended just for civilians and other people to pay it forward to military members. But now it's more organized towards veterans actually paying it forward to their brothers and sisters. So a lot of these guys used to have a real purpose in life when they served. What they did meant something, and then when they get out, a lot of them didn't even want to get out. They got medically retired or they got hurt. They don't have that purpose anymore. So it's not just getting a guy out for a weekend and fishing or hunting or shooting or whatever in the outdoors and then sending them home, because that doesn't really accomplish anything other than that 2 or 3 days. So we send them home with a mission through our new ambassador program and basically enlist them to be a part of Operation Pay It Forward, reach out to veterans in their community, guys they served with or gals they served with, and create their own events, and then we help fund those events. So essentially allows us to grow without having to add actual, we're all volunteer, and I don't want to add salaried positions. That's not going to be something that we ever get into. So it allows them to have, one, a new purpose in life, and two, to continue the healing in the outdoors. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's absolutely fantastic. So Mike, you were the first guy to go out.
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy. So I got injured over in Iraq, finished my last deployment in 2007. I was hit with some shrapnel and just peppered. I mean, it wasn't one of those deals, like everybody thinks, when you get injured with shrapnel or something, you got big chunks hanging off out of your leg or, your leg's completely ripped off. And sometimes that does happen. But when you get peppered, it's almost like small holes, little black holes, so anyway, I got injured. I went through limb salvage for years trying to stay in the military. And finally, after multiple surgeries, the military just said, we can't use you anymore. And they medically retired me after 10 years of service. So I continued to go through limb salvage surgery. And finally, in February of 2015, I had my leg amputated just because medically there's nothing else that could be done. So February 10th, I had it done, and I was going through physical therapy and still waiting to get my first prosthetic. and I got this phone call just out of the blue. And I normally don't answer the phone if I don't recognize the number. And my wife was with me. I was actually on my way to physical therapy. And my wife, my phone rings and my wife goes, "You better answer that." And I'm like, "Well, how do you know who that is, you know?" I said, "I'm not going to answer. I don't know who it is." She goes, "No, you need to answer it." So I answer it, and I find out that, you know, she had been talking to Eric, I don't know, a week or so prior, a few times. And so here's this guy I never met, never heard of him, didn't even know existed. And he's like, "Hey, so do you want to go on a Western-style mule deer hunt in Idaho?" And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "What? Is this for real?" I'm like, "What's going on, man?"
Now, were you into hunting at all prior to this?
So I had just started. Well, I was kind of into hunting. I tried doing some bow hunting and stuff on my own prior to all this, a few years before everything, and I've always wanted to really get into it, but just never really had the opportunity. And the issues with my leg and going through the limb salvage surgeries and all that stuff, I was really limited as far as where I could go, how I could hunt, all that stuff. And I thought once I got to Texas, I'd be able to hunt everywhere and anywhere. But, you know, 99% of the land out there is privately owned. So it's hard unless you got, you know, $4 or $5 grand to pay for a lease. It's hard to get out and hunt in Texas. So when I got this phone call from Eric, I was like, you know, this is awesome. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, what's the catch? You know, what's the catch? And I think at one point I even might have said that to him. And
yeah, I was trying to sell you that timeshare that I want to get rid of. That was the end-all, be-all. Yeah.
And you're still stuck with that timeshare,
yeah, it did
right,
work. He just took the hunt and left me with the timeshare.
So, but, you know, it was something that even though, you know, I didn't even have my prosthetic yet, I was 2 months out of, I was just over 2 months. I had just gotten my leg. That's what it was. I had just gotten my leg. And I was still learning to walk. You know, I was like a newborn baby, you know, trying to walk around on this thing and figure it out. But I took it as a challenge. You know, and even though I was a little leery of it, I think the challenge gave me a lot of motivation to push myself harder through physical therapy. It gave me something to look forward to. You know, this hunt took place in, what month was it? October, yeah, late October, right? Mm-hmm. Mid-October.
What year was this?
2015.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so same year I had my leg amputated. So it gave me something to look forward to. Eric stayed in constant contact with me. You know, we talked 3-4 times a week, text messages constantly. And it just gave me a lot of motivation and drive to push myself harder. So when I finally came time to do the hunt, you know, I felt like Eric and I were old friends at that point, you know, and I came out here to Utah and met him at his house and had a barbecue, and he had some people that were involved with donations because not only did they get me out hunting, but he completely outfitted me. You know, I had new camo and rifle and optics and the whole nine. Basically everything I would need to duplicate that process with my family, for myself, or getting other veterans out. So it was just it was an incredible experience for me because not only during the process of the build up to the hunt was I motivated and driven to get in the best shape I could possibly be to be able to get out there and hunt the mountains in southern Idaho, but when I actually got out there, you know, it allowed me to redefine my physical limits because you spend so much time, you know, all the doctors and stuff from the time I got injured, you know, oh, you can't do this anymore, you can't do that anymore. And then when I get my leg amputated, especially at that point, they're like, well, you know, basically you're going to be able to walk from your sofa to, you know, your kitchen for a while, you know, and it's going to take you years before you get to the point where you can walk around like in a store or go grocery shopping or something like that. And I was just determined that wasn't going to happen. And being able to get out on that hunt and hump some of the mountains and you know, do some of the stuff that we did just allowed me to gave me the realization that I'm in charge of of what happens with me. I'm able to define my own limits for myself and not what somebody else is telling me.
I feel like the second somebody tells you you can't do something, that's the instant you're like, oh, okay. All right, let's give me a little motivation and I will prove you wrong this instant.
Yeah.
I hear it now.
It's tough, though. We run into it with a lot of veterans, and they all say the same thing. When you have, like, surgeons and specialists and doctors and family members all telling you the same thing and you just had a limb amputated, it's hard to overcome that, you know, and you got to have the right environment and the right people motivating you to do that. It's tough for those guys in the place they're in physically and mentally to just overcome all that on their own,
Yeah.
And so you got to provide the opportunity and the method for doing that, or at least the path. And that's one of the things we focus on with some of the guys that are physically injured that come out with us.
So explain a little bit more why hunting and fishing. I guess you guys do horseback riding too, right?
Yeah.
Why all of that kind of environment, the outdoors?
We actually do. We do basically any outdoor activity. Any veteran that might be out there listening, or anybody knows one, on our website, www.opif4ourvets.org, there's a sign-up sheet, basically an interest form for veterans.
And we'll link to, I've got a show notes page for each of these. It'll be at livingcountryinthecity.com/4.
Cool.
I'll link to you guys' website, the forums, everything,
Cool.
so
Appreciate
people
that.
can access them really easily.
That'd be perfect. And so on that form, if they go in there, I think there's 20 different outdoor activities. And we just ask them to select their top 5. So they go through in there and select. It just so happens that probably 90% or more select hunting. And when you're dealing with combat veterans, one of the big things, the big voids when you come back, is you miss that camaraderie and that brotherhood you have when you're in the field. Basically you're living, eating, breathing, fighting right next to all your brothers day in, day out, and you build a bond that you can't really replicate anywhere else. But coming back, the outdoors, for one, is because it's peaceful. It's hard
It's therapeutic.
to be depressed and anxiety when you're in the outdoors, especially with positive people.
I think that's the only time I don't have anxiety is when I'm in the outdoors.
In the civilian world, like in the cities we live in, it's just so much stuff coming at us. It's hard to even stop and think, But the other side of it is, you're sharing a campfire, or you're sharing a tent. You have a plan. When you're hunting, you come up with a plan. You have a mission, essentially. You're executing a mission with your brothers.
Yeah.
There's weapons involved. You're pursuing something. It's about as close as that feeling you can get, as when they're over there. Sometimes guys don't even really want to shoot anything, and that's fine. They just want to go through the motions of it, and that's fine too. Some guys aren't really that excited about actually, shooting the animal. That's not a problem. We can go out there for 5 days and just chase them, some guys are into fly fishing more. We get guys at different levels of rehabilitation from a PTSD standpoint. We try to vet those guys and make sure we understand where they're at. They're not going to go out on a big game hunt if they just got out of the VA treatment. We'll do fly fishing trips or horseback riding or whatever it takes. Really, we just try to focus on what's going to impact that individual the most, and then we make that happen. So it's not just a check the box where, okay, here's a hunting trip, here's a vet, slap them together, you guys go have fun, see you later. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to actually impact these guys in a positive manner. So
that's great. So do you have any idea, do you have any numbers on how many vets you've taken out, or how many trips you guys have taken?
Yeah. So we started, formed the 501c3 in April of 2016. Got the board together. Mike's the vice president. We got a couple other guys. Mike Vanderhoof's on the board, and Jarrett Bickham. We got the board together. We started planning. We didn't have any funds. The first, from his hunt, we had some people donate. And then I did a couple other ones. We took some Marines out on a pheasant hunt. And I found people to pay for it. I paid for it myself. So
yeah, we did some stuff. It was just out of pocket.
Yeah, and you did some down in Texas, down by you too, with Jeff Kruger and those guys. So early on, it was just us kind of coming out of pocket. But 2016 as a whole, we were about 25 veterans. And we did one small fundraising event, to try and fund that stuff. But we really try to network and partner with people that really want to help our veterans. It's not only about the money. I understand if somebody needs their costs covered. I get it if you run a business. But we're not looking for someone to say, hey, I'll give you a 10% discount and we'll send a vet out. It's if they don't feel as strongly about our veterans as we do, then we'll look for someone else to partner with so that we can maximize our dollars for our veterans. We don't take any salaries. Everything goes to the programs, but we're trying to, again, impact is the key, so we want to reach as many guys as we can with the dollars we have. And so, we did 25, roughly, veterans the last year and a budget of $18,000. And a lot of that was a lot of really good people donating time, resources, land, hunts, guiding, all that kind of stuff. And so and this year it's going to be a lot bigger because just the network keeps growing. So,
I really think that's so key in what you do, is because, especially with stuff like hunting and fly fishing, unless you've already been doing it for years, it's not Yeah, you can find cheaper ways to do it, but it's not. Even then, it's not the least expensive hobby,
Right.
activity, whatever you want to call it, to get into.
Right.
I mean, it's hard enough to, if you're experienced at it, to figure out. Unless you're experienced at it, to figure out where to start,
Sure.
what you need to buy. That it's one more excuse, one more obstacle to not.
And that's where we'd rather
knock it off
spend
the
our
couch.
dollars, honestly. I mean, if I got to pay for something, I'd rather pay for a fly rod and reel combo for a guy than pay an outfitter $500.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he can use that. I mean, we focus on a life-changing experience, not a cool weekend, So if a guy goes out and he shows interest in fly fishing, well, here's a rod and reel combo. Hey, guess what? A couple weeks, we're going to have a fly tying kit showing up. Hey, they're doing fly tying classes at the DAV on Thursday nights. Let's go check it out. So it's not just, hey, it was a cool weekend, go back to your couch and good luck with your life. Because that's, in a lot of ways, if you're a veteran, you think through that process, that's almost more depressing. Mm-hmm. To understand there's something out there that you enjoy, but you don't feel like you have the means to do it. So that's where we try to fill that gap with the dollars.
That's something that really, I think, separates us from a lot of the other organizations out there is, they spend a lot of time focusing on, let's spend a weekend with them, or let's do a trip with them for a week-long trip or whatever. But after that, what happens? They go back home, they're back on the couch, and that almost initiates even a further, deeper depression. Mm-hmm. They get out, they have a great time, they feel liberated, they're motivated when they get home, and then it's like a smack in the face, you're back to reality, nothing's changed. Yep. So by empowering these guys to get out and continue the mission, whether it's like Eric talked about, giving them a fly rod and fly tying kit or something where they could work on themselves to improve themselves and get out and do something, along with the ambassador program where, okay, now I've done a trip, I know what it's like, I see the changes that it's done in me, let me reach out to somebody else in my community and try and do that same thing. It's just the empowerment of it. We don't want to do a weekend trip and send them home and never talk to them again. These guys literally become OPIF family members. We're all brothers, and every guy that we've had out on hunts, we talk to on a regular basis. Nope. We get text messages or phone calls, and we do the same with them. And so we focus on, the long-term end of it, like Eric was saying. That's the priority for us.
And really trying to impact. The ambassador program was kind of twofold. One, it was trying to get these guys a new mission so they felt like they were serving their brothers again. The other side of that is reaching the guys. I mean, 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and that's actually a low estimate. That's probably not even right. It's higher than that. But those guys that are in that place are not going to take a call from me. They don't know me. They're not going to take a call from Mike. They're not going to answer a Facebook ad or post or any of that kind of stuff, but they'll talk to a guy that they served with. So if we say, hey, you guys are ambassadors now, you went through this program, you know what it does, go back and don't just find any old buddy. Look for the guys that need it. What we're trying to do is impact the guys. We'll take anybody because we want to be part of the family, but search for the guys that are in that place where they need that help, because it's really hard to reach them. There's usually only one or two people that can actually get someone like that to actually do something like we're doing. So, again, it's about the impact side of it, not just checking the box and saying, hey, we did a hunt, slap each other on the back and did a good job and let's move on,
And I really think that's what makes the program so powerful. It's really not about the hunting or fishing or horseback riding. It's really about it's helping people heal. It's helping it save lives.
Saving lives, that's
really
the bottom
what it
line.
comes down to.
Yep. That's the bottom line. And we get to, there's guys out there that are so deep that, we can't reach them right now. So, or we have guys that, that go home and say, hey, I've been trying to get this veteran out, but he's just too deep in depression and he's in such a dark place. There's nothing that he's doing right now to respond or whatever. So, we partner up with people all the time. We network with people all the time. And one of the newest networks that we have going into 2017 is Dr. Brian out of the University of Utah here in Salt Lake, who's developed a PTSD program, and he developed this actually as an active duty soldier over in Iraq. As a clinical psychologist, he developed this program that has a 75% cure for PTSD. Wow. Not feeling better, but a cure rate for PTSD in 2 weeks. A 2-week program. So we've partnered up with him, and we're going to help promote and push that program, help refer veterans over to it because, we got it. Going out and hunting and fishing is not the end-all, be-all, and you're fixed, and you're never going to have issues again. That's not going to stop the nightmares. That's not going to stop the anxiety. So it's important for us that we have these other avenues and this other partnership with people like Dr. Bryant that, we could refer these guys to get the help that we can't provide. So we get that it's not just the outdoors. That's part of the process. That's part of the empowerment. But for the guys that really need it, we make sure we got the other networks and programs in place that we can send them to.
No. Well, you're coming at it from such a holistic angle with that. It's you're not just focusing on the physical aspect. You're not just focusing on the mental or the camaraderie aspect. It's just you need all of that to come together to really get someone to heal in any situation.
Or even from an organizational aspect. I mean, we've run into. When I first started doing this on my own, I reached out to other veteran organizations just to get a feel for, how do you do fundraising? I hadn't done any of this stuff. I just decided to do it one day. I didn't know how to do it. So I reached out to other organizations and started talking to people. And what I found out right away is that some of the organizations, and I'm not, anybody that's helping out veterans in any capacity is good. But some of the organizations get kind of more focused on what I call like empire building. They're making it more like a corporation in that they want it to be their flag, their program, their name on it, and I'm like...
They want to dog and pony our vets.
Yeah, and I'm not, and some of them are, sometimes it goes down to the ground level and the guy running the event, and if he's a great guy, then it's a good experience, but we're not interested in that. We network with other veterans, share resources. Field of Dreams out in California has been doing it for 13 years. Great guys and gals, and we've done a couple of joint events with them. Hunts for the Brave here in Salt Lake City, John Leonard and Garth Hardy. Great guys. There's some down in Texas.
Life and Liberty Outdoors in Texas.
And there's several of them, and as we come across them that are like-minded, it just allows us to network more. I mean, we had Field of Dreams had a hunt last year that was they had booked 4 veterans, and for some reason 2 weeks is the magic number. 2 weeks before, guys always bail. And so they had a veteran back out. And, since we do a lot of networking through the veteran community, they're like, hey, do you have anybody that wants to do this? Well, it's in Canada. You need a passport. You got to be able to leave in 10 days, and you're going to be gone for, what was it, 10-day hunt?
Yeah, it was a 10-day hunt for black bear in Canada.
So,
that's a nice hunt right there.
Yeah. Well, and, a lot of things, it's like, oh, yeah, I'd love to go. Oh, I don't have a passport. Or, I don't have this. Or, a guy's like, oh, I'd love to go. Oh, I have child support, and I can't leave the country or something like that. There's all kinds of things in 10 days. So Mike found a guy in, I think, 2 days, infantry veteran out of Kansas, and he's like, I've always dreamed of doing a black bear hunt. He had the time of his life, He went out there and had the time of his life, shot a big old boar. And so the other side of that is when you reach out to people and say, can you please help our veterans, and they provide resources, you have to utilize those resources responsibly. From their aspect, they're looking at it like I'm giving, and if they don't feel like their giving is either appreciated or it's not being utilized fully, then they stop giving. And to me, that hurts the veteran community as a whole. So, if there's openings or gaps or whatever, other organizations, we're trying to utilize everything we can to make sure that, one, as many veterans are getting help as we can, and that the people providing the resources don't give up on us. So,
well, you just hear so many horror stories about any organizations, any nonprofit organizations. Right. You hear, you see these breakdowns about where your money goes, or
$400,000 for a salary for the CEO, and stuff like that.
And they may have started with all of the best intentions, but it's easy for them to get bogged down in the red tape and in the corporate atmosphere. And that's one thing that's really awesome about what you guys do is you're not adding those paid positions. You're able to kind of infinitely expand the organization, but you're doing it through just this natural way of other veterans and word of mouth.
Yeah, and we got a lot of volunteers that are civilians that just care.
Yeah.
That when we call and say, like we just had our annual banquet, we call and say, hey, we need help with, getting people to donate items for an auction, or we need help with centerpieces, or, getting the stuff set up or whatever.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like we call them and they jump.
Yep.
So it's just bottom line. It's just good caring people that legitimately care about our veterans.
I think what you said about the nonprofit, I actually thought really hard about that when I formed this, and I hesitated in the beginning. That's really why I didn't want to form a nonprofit in the beginning at all, because there's always that trap. And I worked for a very large corporation and ran a big portion of it, and it's really easy to start thinking in terms of percentages instead of dollars. And it's really easy to say, well, my salary is only 5% of what we got, but it's $400,000. What can you do with $400,000 to help our veterans? That's a lot of money.
We could do a lot for years.
Yeah.
400.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things that ethically it's a hard line to walk. And I didn't even want to put myself there. I feel like I'm a pretty ethical guy. I'm a veteran. I want to help our veterans, but I didn't even want to put myself in that position where you're walking a line where you're raising funds for an organization, but you're also taking a salary. And I'm not saying everybody that does it's bad, but it's too hard of a line to walk and still keep your focus on your mission, in my mind. And so when we wrote the bylaws, it's no salaries, no paid positions. Anybody that's looking for that is welcome to go somewhere else. But the other side of that coin is how do you keep expanding? Well, we have full-time jobs, so it's like we did 25 events last year, maxed us out, I mean, for us, it is tough to do. We're all over different states. And so that's, again, kind of one of the other things behind the ambassador program that really helps us out, because we can continue to expand and continue to help our veterans in multiple ways, but we don't have to add paid positions. We don't have to physically be there at every event. We can provide the resources and the support and the funding, through a lot of good people that help us out and still grow. So that's kind of the overreaching thought behind the process.
So now I know, every event, every trip, every hunt is unique, is special. Do you guys have any particular trips that really stood out to you, though, like something funny happened, or just something you really enjoyed or was really impactful for you guys?
I know mine was. What was yours?
I would have to say the Jack over at the Drop Time Ranch in Texas. Yeah. So we did a vet where we partnered up with another organization, like-minded organization out of Texas, Life and Liberty Outdoors, and I was able to basically fill 4 slots with some veterans that we have to go do a hunt at a high fence ranch out there that's full of exotics. And, just an incredible hunt. So we get these 4 vets out there, and one of them, his name is Jack Williams. We brought him in from Kentucky, and he's a triple amputee. Both legs and one arm. He has his left arm is the only thing that's left. And this guy came in, and I was really a little concerned about, how are we going to get this guy out to hunt, and how are we going to get him to drop a nice exotic, triple amputee. I mean, it's just difficult. So not only did he come out motivated and stuff, but he wanted to bow hunt. So, I mean, and here's this guy. I mean, he's just got the best attitude, most positive attitude in the world. He's just one of those guys that just feels blessed to be awake every day, and be on the earth another day. And so we got him out, and he shot a beautiful white fallow, full velvet. I mean, a trophy animal. Shot it with his bow, and I remember him coming back over to the lodge after he shot it, and they got him in this big lifted up F-350, the ranch truck, and we're literally picking him up and putting him in and out of the seat into a track chair that we had out there for him. And when they pull up, the front passenger door flies open, and he comes diving out of there like this combat roll. And I thought he fell, but he lands on the ground. He's hooting and hollering, doing like these one-handed cartwheels, and I mean, just going absolutely crazy. And just to experience that, just to see what that experience did for him, and just how much he appreciated it and how much he got out of it. I mean, for me, I tell the guys all the time, they're like, oh, thanks, we appreciate you guys getting us out and doing this stuff. I'm like, hey, I got to be honest with you, man. I think I get more out of this than you guys do,
Yeah.
That's got to be such a valuable, like I said, experience for you as well, seeing, I mean, as you were saying, when you give, anybody gives, you do want to see that it's going towards something valuable, and when you're able to get that experience and see those reactions from people, I mean, that's a huge reward for you guys.
When you see it, like stuff like that, like Mike just talked about, it helps you give everybody perspective, civilians, everybody, on what's really important in life and what's really not, I mean, I was going through some just crazy times at work when I started doing this, like actually started the 501c3. And, you know, I would be working 10 or 12-hour days, and then at night for 3 or 4 hours I'd be working on this stuff, you know, and I wasn't tired in the morning. You know, it's like, it's one of those things where I think the saying goes, you know, working hard on something you don't want to do is stress. Working hard on something you're passionate about is commitment. You know, it's not stressful, you know, and so, but it helps you kind of get a refocus on what's important. You know, when you deal with guys like Mike and Jack and, you know, guys that have every reason in the world to be down or whatever, and then they're the most positive person in the world. Then you start thinking about your own problems. And it's like, oh, yeah, I had to work freaking 12 hours, and I had to deal with that jackass, that blah, 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 blah at work. You know, it's like, who cares? You know, let it go. You know, it doesn't mean anything. Let it go. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a big deal, you know. I know the hunt that I remember is actually the one we just did recently. We had a guy who was a combat engineer, and he volunteered to drive the route clearance vehicles, like, all the time. So he got blown up 3 times in his vehicle doing route clearance, and one of the times just completely mangled and flipped over the Husky he was driving and broke his back and had some other issues. And he's actually still active duty. He's not a veteran, which for us is, we take out both. Doesn't really matter to us. But and so he'd never actually been big game hunting before. So our board member, Mike Vanderhoof, has a 7,000-acre ranch here in Utah, and tons of mountain lions on it in the wintertime when the elk migrate through, and he runs hounds and all that. So we took him up there, and it was snowing so much this year. We were going to do it later in January, but it was getting so deep we were afraid all the elk and everything were going to leave. So we went out there, and the day we picked, we were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get out there. They showed up, I think, on a Thursday. I showed up on Friday, and it's like 4 feet of snow, it's negative 22 degrees, and we find a cat track and let those hounds go. And I don't know, 30 minutes later, 3.3 miles away, up and over and down through 3 canyons, they tree the lion. And so we start busting track through the snow, and it's like, you know, it's up to your waist in some spots. I don't know, we went maybe a quarter mile, and I was looking back, and I was originally busting track, and, you know, and Kelly was kind of falling behind, and just went back and talked to him, like, you okay, man? You know, because, you know, he hurt him. I mean, he had a broken back and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm good, you know. And you could tell he was kind of hurt, and he was sucking wind. And then we get, like, half the way to the hounds. And this, I don't know, it took us, I think, 4 hours to get to the hounds. We get halfway there, and he can start hearing the hounds. And all of a sudden, he's like, he's like a new man. Yeah. All of a sudden, I was like, where did Kelly go? Oh, he's out in the front of the whole everybody. You know, he hears the hounds, and you can't stop him. He's going, so... You know, and then, you know, to me was we got to the lion, it jumped, we retreat it, you know, just physically exhausting hunt. We take this lion, he's super stoked. We get it all skinned out and pack the meat, he packs the hide. You know, he's carrying the hide out on his own pack with his broken back. And he's one of the first guys back to the truck. And another guy that we had with us was kind of trailing, so I was hanging back with him. And we get down to the final stretch, and here comes Kelly back up the trail through the snow, asking us if we need help.
Wanting to grab packs and stuff.
And he's like, hey, man, let me grab your pack. You know, I'm like,
Holy
I'm good, dude, but he probably needs, you might need to carry him, you know. But he did. He goes back in and helps that guy. And that's just to me, that just embodies the mind of a soldier. You know what I mean? Whether it's Marine or Army, it doesn't matter. I mean, you sacrifice for your guys. You don't give up. You know, the mental toughness and you don't let the environment beat you down. And that kind of embodied it all in that one hunt. I mean, we were out, I think, for 11 hours. We all each had like one bottle of water and like a thing of jerky, and that was it. You know, we left, got back after dark.
I don't have to do any work, and I'd be dragging after that. Only having that.
Yeah, it was brutal. But when you look back on something like that, it's like, man, that was awesome. You know, that was awesome.
But, you know, there's so. I mean, every hunt, there's moments that just. Yeah. You know, stick out in your mind and that are just incredible. That kind of aha moment where you see the veteran just kind of go through this mental, physical, and emotional change. It's like flipping. I mean, right in front of you. You know, it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde scenario. Yeah. You know, they come in and they're quiet and they're, you know, reserved and they're kind of in the back of the room or in the corner or whatever by themselves. And a couple days into it, and these guys are just fired up and motivated. And you know, we did a elk hunt with a veteran that got blown up and broke his back, and his traumatic brain injuries are so bad that he has really, really hard seizures. I mean, he can't drive anymore. He has to have a service dog with him in case he goes down for a seizure. The dog actually goes and gets help. I mean, and we did an elk hunt with him in northern Arizona, and these moments of watching him take fistful of medications. I had to drive him up because he couldn't fly because of the change of air pressure would trigger seizures. So we drove him from Houston to northern Arizona. And just during the drive, hey, pull over, I'm going to get sick, I'm dizzy, I'm having mild seizures. So we're up on a week-long elk hunt, and about 3-4 days into it, I look at him, I'm like, hey, dude, you're doing pretty good. I haven't seen you get sick in a while. And he says, you know what, I haven't taken medication in 2 days. I'm like, are you kidding me? And it's at first I'm a little concerned, like, is that a good idea?
Yeah.
But then, I see him out there in the field, and we're chasing bugles and we're calling, and I see he talks about this experience where he's laying in a prone and there's like 20 elk in front of him, and we're calling, and this bull comes up, and it's so close that the bull's screaming and spitting. He said I could see the muscles in the back of his throat. I could smell his breath. He's spitting on me. Almost stepped on him, And just to hear him talk about that experience and just to see the physical and emotional change that he's gone through for the better, obviously, those are the moments that just stick with you. And when we have those rough days, it's like, oh, wow, I'm rushing to try and find a vet to get this hunt done, or, we're trying to make sure he's got everything he needs for the hunt, and, it's worth it, That's why when I say, that we get more out of it than they're ever going to get, those are the moments for me that just like, this is it.
Yeah.
Well, that's so exciting. And I mean, I look around at the pictures, we're here in the booth, and they've got pictures up here of a lot of the hunts and a lot of the activities, and these guys, you can just see it in their eyes. It's, there's just this like shine in all their eyes and their smiles, and it's really impressive. So what can people do? Somebody's listening and wants to get involved, wants to help. How can people get involved?
So there's two ways, really. So when I started doing this in the beginning, I found a lot of people wanted to help, but they wanted to physically help. A lot of people don't want to just write a check and send it off, and we get that, and those people we need as well. So really two ways. I mean, if it's a dollars thing, we're obviously always trying to raise funds. The ambassador program is something that is going to blow up really fast. And as these guys set up more events, we're going to start running low on funds pretty quick. And we don't want to slow them down. We don't want to give them the mission and say, go do this, and they go all out and do it, and then we say, oh, sorry, we ran out of money, We'll have to wait till later, So donating money is a big thing. You can go straight to the website and click the donate button. Obviously it's tax deductible or 501c3, so they get receipts for that. The other way is on that same website, there's a donor form. It's a donor interest form, so if somebody wants to physically do something, set up an event, volunteer for an event, they can click on that and fill out all their information. That comes directly to us, and then we have that information. So then we reach out to them and say, okay, what aligns with what veterans we have or what events we already have going on. And so that's really the two biggest ways that people can help. And as we grow, we're going to need a lot more volunteer help for just everything. I mean, we're a 4-person board, and it's a lot of work. So we're going to need good, committed people to help us with everything. So,
and we've got the Adventure Theater here in the back with some
coyotes going.
I think we're doing turkey calls or coyote calls.
A little of each.
A little bit of everything. We had
not really sure.
A minute ago.
Well, I will make sure to get all of those pages linked on the show notes page. Do you guys have social media set up? Anything like that?
Yeah, find us on Facebook and Instagram. So OPIF4R Vets.
And that's the number 4.
Yeah, number 4, correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll link to that as well.
Go on there and like us and share if you would. I mean, a lot of it is, even if you're not a veteran or you're not even really interested in helping, it kind of helps reach other people, when you share that stuff. And I've had some people that reached out, veterans that reached out that said, hey, my sister's cousin's brother shared this thing and I saw it, So a lot of it's, not necessarily marketing for dollars, but really we're marketing for veterans to find the ones that really need the help. So anybody that can get involved and share that helps us a lot.
That's fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really excited to get this out, get more people learning about the program.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Talk to you guys soon.
We appreciate you having us, Sam. Thanks, brother.
Take care.
Hey, y'all, that's going to do it for this episode of Living Country in the City. Make sure you check out the show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/4. Also, search for Living Country in the City on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe. While you're there, make sure to leave us a good review, and in the meantime, stay country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.